Hello again and happy Sunday. It's a great Sunday with Schlegs. It is time for the difference. We are back again for episode number 2. We're going to attack and dominate with the man himself, Anthony Schlegel. Schlegs, 49-10, Ohio State over Rutgers. I'm not sure what all there is to say about a game against the mighty Scarlet Knights, especially when the Buckeyes just sort of like went out there like, all right, this is going to be pretty easy. It didn't seem like they had to sweat a whole lot. I know that a lot of sweat equity goes into it, but 49-10 seems par for the course there. What do you think?
Yes, it seems right. One, great to be with you, Austin, on the difference with Schlegs on Sundays. Kind of fresh take recap of watching the game last night, and it's nice because I watched the game and my family watches the game. But then I'm actually like taking notes and I'm trying to watch certain things, which I don't do a lot of anymore because I'm not on the sideline. So it's really fun. Going into this game, I initially thought, okay, here's 3 things: handle the wrinkles and eliminate the big plays and the gadgets that Rutgers has to do to hang around. We saw that 2 years ago in 2020 when they came here. I mean, Greg Schiano was pulling every trick out of everybody's bag of all time just to be able to hang within the game. And they did. Remember that? I mean, I think it was like 50-something to 27, and they should not have been in there. So that was 1. 2, turnovers. Okay, don't have any and go cause them, and then be balanced and let the young guys kind of step in and shine on that stage to get live bullets because you're going to need them down the road. And I thought they did that offensively. So those are kind of my 3 things. I didn't like the fact that we started the game with a turnover off the muff punt, and that really kind of set, you're like kind of like is it going to be like one of those type of games? And then Mayan Williams just takes off and has 5 touchdowns, So there's a lot of things that transpired in this. I will say this just from a defensive mindset that I have. I tell you what, there were times where Ohio State offensively and defensively in the past have looked kind of flat coming out in certain games. I would say, and again, I hit a lot of people in my life, so we've only had 5 games so far, but I feel like our defense comes out playing very, very fast. They run. I'll say this about our defense: they run to the football, and people have talked about where have these linebackers been? They've been there, guys. They've been there. The difference is they have a system, and they know the system, they own the system, and they play really, really fast in the system. That's what you like to see. You have a guy like Steel Chambers who, was Steel not a running back at one time?
He sure was a running back, yes.
Let's think about this. And then you look at even like Cade Stover, who was the number 8 linebacker in the country coming out. He's played linebacker, DN, and tight end.
Yeah.
Guys that can adapt because they're athletes are people. Those are the type of guys that they're looking for. I just went blank. We had another one of those. Hang on. I coached him, and he was a quarterback at New Albany.
Darren Lee is your guy.
Darren Lee. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That was a guy that Fick pounded the table for, and look what he ended up doing at Ohio State. Steele had an incredible game. Tommy's just had another, consistent game of football where he had 9 tackles, but Steele having 11 tackles, an interception, 2 tackles for loss. That's a huge game for him. It's just a confidence builder as we get into the meat of the schedule. So it was really fun. I just like to see that in the past we have seen and we have been skeptical of Ohio State teams rolling out the silver helmets with the Buckeye leaves on the field versus a team like Rutgers and saying, we're Ohio State, it's going to be 49-10. But You know what? They made it 49-10 the entire game, and that was really good to see.
I think the part with Steel Chambers that you talk about, Schlegs, we made a huge deal a year ago about the transition to go, running back to linebacker, and a few weeks into the season, he was one of the most productive players on the defense. But I still feel like, and I asked him about this after the game last night, like, all right, there were times that you could see last year, like he was one of the best players on a defense that wasn't very good. And now I think you're seeing the growth from year one, plus now 5 weeks of familiarity with the new defensive system. So some of this he had to almost start over in some respects in spring and through training camp. And I felt like there were a couple maybe missed tackles or leaving his feet earlier in the first few weeks. I don't know if you brought that up last week on the difference, or if Bobby has also brought that up at Roosters on Monday, or both of you. I can't remember either. But like, you know, he didn't make every tackle, and you don't have to be perfect. But I thought yesterday, if you made contact with Steel Chambers, you were going the other direction.
Yes. I think that comes with it. Knowing that first off, he's significantly more athletic than a lot of other linebackers, just coming from the running back position. But two, when you're making tackles, you have, throughout the process of making tackles your entire life, you know when you have to leave your feet and you know when you can take another step.
Okay.
And you also know how to align yourself pre-snap to set yourself up for more success. And I think that they have a really good continuity within that room. And let's face it, Steele and Tommy live together along with Silver. It's kind of funny, but in a world where guys don't communicate a lot now, okay? I mean, people, they communicate when they're playing, you know, Fortnite or Call of Duty, right? They really communicate well over the headsets when they're not in person. But when you're on the field on defense, you have to communicate. I think them living together helps that communication because you kind of know. And I would say this, I mean, I didn't live with Bobby or AJ and we all didn't live together, but we were in the building so much together and we did so many things off the field that it was like we lived together.
Right.
So the communication was innate and it was literally eye contact or a hand signal. And that's all that needed to be said because we watched so much film together that we could anticipate and we knew each other's responsibilities. And if we had quads, I just had to look at AJ and say quads. He knew that he was forward first crosser in that defense. Nothing else needed to be said. Like that was it. And it was just learning each other and then setting us up for success. And I said this last week, alignment assignment, adjustments and alerts, that goes through your mind on a pre-snap routine. And I think as these guys get more into the system, they're seeing how they can set themselves up for success. And also, you know, coach is putting them in an opportunity to go make plays, and that's what you want to see. But I think the communication and everybody being on the same page is something that I really am enjoying seeing through 5 weeks with this defense.
Schlegs, you have been a get-back coach before.
Oh, yeah.
You've also had to clean up some scenarios on the field in the horseshoe.
Yeah, it happens.
Take me through the mindset or evaluate the little brouhaha around the 35-yard line last night in the fourth quarter.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, you know, let's go back through the whole scenario. Because I saw this on Twitter, and you know, there's really 3 things. There's 9 minutes left in the game. You have a rugby-style punter that we've had there for a long time.
Yeah.
The age in college football where you just step up and, you know, you do the normal punt formation. You know, everybody does the bear now.
The most important play in the game, the punt.
It is. I mean, 100%. And, you know, going back to everybody plays great defense. That's kind of complimentary football. You hear that term a lot. But what does that really mean? You know, in the league, it was, hey, offense, your responsibility is to get 2 first downs. Like, that's it, right? The defense gets a blow. You get 2 first downs. You're able to change the field position because I forget the percentages, but it's you know, I remember Coach Meyer talking about the gospel of field position, and it was if they were inside their 10, they had a 10% of points, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And if they're inside the 25, it was like 75. And if they're inside the 50, it was, you know, it went up from there. But everybody has a role and responsibility in playing great defense. Punt is one that can flip the field and put your defense in a good position. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So you look at this and where they were, there's 9 minutes to go in the game, nine and change. So you have a rugby style punter. All right. 3 things kind of came to mind when this play transpired. All right. It was 1, do your normal punt. Okay.
Yeah.
And before the game even happened, if there's nobody in contain, you punt the football. All right. 2, if there's somebody in contain, you punt the football. If there's nobody in contain, You're just taught to take it and run with it because it's available.
Right.
Okay. 2, if you're Rutgers and you're down and you don't want somebody to do a fake punt, 2 things.
Don't come after
rush.
it.
Well, no, it's not even don't come after it. You can't rush 2 guys into the B gap and your third guy into the C gap and nobody have contain.
Okay.
So that it's open.
Yeah.
Right. They also could have said, hey, listen, we want to put a fake punt on tape. We want you to do this. And we've seen them crashing this down. Hey, go take it if it's available. Right. Or it was just up to his coaching. Mm-hmm. So, and it's also being up like this, running out the clock some more. It's not bad because we can just chew up some more of the clock. It's not like they're being extravagant on offense. You automatically know they're going to run the football. It's not like they're trying to, they're not thinking about the line or thinking about covering. It's they're just playing the game, right? So
some people were thinking about it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Some people were. So you know what? Here's what happened. They didn't have a guy in contain. It was wide open. He got 20-something yards, and he got blasted out of bounds. Like, that's what it was. I would say, the only thing would be, did Greg necessarily have to come all the way across the field to be in the mix? Like that,
right.
That was the first thing, right? Let the refs handle the situation. He's not that type of guy. He's been able to kind of flip the script at Rutgers ever since he came back. He's brought some juice. He chops wood. He, even Greg was the defensive coordinator here with Ryan.
Yep.
And I personally think that Greg is a better head coach than he was a coordinator because he's been a head coach for such a long time before and then was put in that coordinator role here at Ohio State. I think he's a really good head coach, and I think he's the absolute head coach that Rutgers needs. But in that situation, I mean, I probably be like, hey, Greg, like, what are we talking about? And they're going after each other. They're pointing fingers at each other. But at the end of the day, it's Ryan has his guys back and Greg has his guys back. And that's what you want to see from both those coaches. And that's why their guys play extremely hard for both of them. So, I saw some strength coaches there in the mix, and I saw, the cordial handshake after the game. And I even saw Mick, shake Greg's hand at the end of the game. And guess what? It's over. You still got to go play the game. Rutgers got beat 49-10. It is what it is. But, I see nothing wrong if they called it because they're putting it on tape.
Right.
I see nothing wrong with the punter taking it because there was nobody that was there to stop it. Like, that's what your job is. Stop it. If you don't like it, stop it.
Dude's a ball player. Comes from Australia, likes to run around and hit people too. Let him go.
I played with a guy from Australian rules football and Ben Graham. He was fantastic. You look at Cam that we had here that's punting for the Eagles. Cam 100% would have taken that ball. He wouldn't even have to ask. It's like one of those things where you ask for forgiveness later. Like, why'd you go do that? Coach, I just got 20 yards on my stats. It's something I wanted to do, my entire career. And I did it. And they're going to be like, you know what? Great job. They might not say it necessarily right there and be excited about it, but in the room, they're going to be like 100%. Great job. Kind of like when I tackled that fan, it was, hey, everybody, I didn't think anything about it. My wife did as she was blowing up my phone when I was leaving the game. Like, what did you do? I was like, I have no clue what I did. It's
You're
okay. But then you're just a guy being a dude. You're just a guy being a dude. And next thing you know, you get a Hit City t-shirt, So anyways.
Everything changes. All right. So let's get some Sundays with Schlegs, the difference makers. Who do you got?
Well, I mean, one, starting it off, Mayan Williams tying the record for 5 touchdowns in a game. I mean, he looked fantastic. Had a burst of speed, 70-yard touchdown run. The offensive line, I tell you what, our blocking up front is significantly better. Now again, it's Rutgers, and we'll see as we get into the meat of this Big Ten play. But our offensive line and our perimeter blocking has been great all season. So I would say Mayan and the offensive line. 2, obviously Steele and Tommy just continuing to do what they do. That's a huge difference maker. And I tell you what, another one is Fleming. I mean, he's, these young guys, I won't say young because he's been in the program for quite some time, but he's been very, very consistent. And when you look at the needs of this, right, this is where Ohio State has really excelled, I would say, since Urban got there and now continuing with Ryan Day, is the depth at all positions is something that is vital because you're going to have guys that go down. I mean, we obviously know that there is some depth issues in the secondary because guys have been hurt. However, you being able to plug and play young guys in there and also going out there and playing fast is vital. So whether it's the wide receivers, the secondary, you have to have this as you get into the meat of your season. And it's good to see Ohio State have that depth because you should go. You can't rest on the fact that, we have guys out, so we only, we play Rutgers and it's 28-10.
Right.
No, it's 49-10. It's Buckeyes like they should be playing, regardless of who's out there. And even on a day where CJ wasn't at his best, 154 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, had a pick, was under 60% completion. But guess what? They're going to have those type of games. But offensively, we took care of business because we won the line of scrimmage and our running backs took over.
Is that number of injuries that Ohio State seems to be dealing with, they come up, they're not long-term. We just seem to not know for sure exactly who's going to play from week to week. And I hesitate to even open up this conversation because we've talked about Rutgers for a long time already, longer than we should for a 49-10 win maybe. But, they practice really hard because they want to get toughness, and there's a risk and reward to that because those are some of the best athletes in the country hitting each other on Tuesday and Wednesday going 1-versus-1. You've got, I don't know, some of the other factors that can go into it, but I know that you've, if not an expert, very well knowledgeable about helping cut down on, soft tissue sorts of things, whether that's groin injuries, hamstrings, whatever else goes, pops up throughout the course of a year. It's football. So I say all this because they're not major injuries for Ohio State. They're just sort of nagging problems. And I don't know the best way to manage it. I don't know if to you it seems like more than a normal year or what your thoughts are about injury situations at all as somebody who's been through that on both the strength side and as a player.
Yeah, let's dive into it. So next week they have Michigan State at Michigan State, correct?
Yep.
Then they have a bye week.
Yep.
So, Michigan State just got beat by Maryland. They've kind of fallen off. Where are they? Let's see. They're 2-3, 0-2 in the conference. And funny, how about that West? You got Northwestern, you have Nebraska, you have Purdue, you have Illinois, you have Minnesota and Iowa, all of them sitting at 1-1 in the conference. Their records are crazy. And then you have 0-2 Wisconsin there. Nobody saw that coming.
Not me.
We kind of saw Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State being the top of the East. But, early in the season, you thought Michigan State, their defense was playing really good, and then all of a sudden have just kind of fallen off the bandwagon.
Right.
I look at it this way. I'm not necessarily concerned right now, considering the fact that you have at Michigan State, who you have, what Michigan State's about. I'm not necessarily concerned about that game. And then you have a bye week. So you, in theory, have 3 weeks to get your guys back ready to go because you want a fully locked and loaded team going into the remainder of that schedule to be the outright Big Ten champs. Mm-hmm. So it's the teams at the end of the year that are the healthiest that will win championships, not necessarily right now.
Okay.
If we had a really big time game and we were out some of these guys, it'd probably be more of a concern.
Gotcha.
There's things that they've done to eliminate some of the soft tissue. And again, you have to go good on good to be able to get those bullets before you go into a game because they're competing against the best in the country at practice. I would say that, they have done some things to reduce these. Now, mixed training program has been the best in college football for a long time there at Ohio State. They have changed where they did camp. This is a smart deal. Back in the day, we used to go to the Ackerman fields that we made that were basically on dirt and in our coffee field. Those scenarios automatically put our guys in risk because the field conditions aren't the field conditions that you have at the Woody. So they stopped going over there because player safety and those type of injuries, they could easily negate those by always practicing on a good playing surface. So they brought it all camp has now been in-house.
Right.
If people have some nagging issues, soft tissue type. I mean, you have some of the best trainers there, and I know what they do. And I remember talking about the Pit in that group, that think tank of guys that are looking at this stuff. And they do. I mean, they're looking at acceleration, deceleration. They're looking at hamstring strength. They're looking at all the different things that go into potentially somebody injuring a hamstring. It could be their core. It could be glute activation. It could be quad strength versus hamstring strength. It could be their hamstring strength overall. And as you go through those things, what is it that player needs? And you kind of just go through and check the box. If the guy has really strong hamstrings, it's not his hamstring strength that you got to think about. Is it quad flexibility? Is it his hip flexors? Is his core not strong enough to stabilize his anterior pelvic hip tilt? Like, you're looking at all these different things that go into that, along with the recovery and the trainers being able to do their job. Is it, there's PRP. Corey Lindsley, he's been out for a little bit with the Chargers. I forget what his injury, but it's just like, hey, I'm going to get a PRP injection. That's a platelet-rich plasma injection that basically helps accelerate the healing process in tendons and ligaments and muscles and joints. And are some of those guys getting a PRP already? I don't know. That's something that you do in the league. But when you do that, they're automatically going to be out, 2 to 4 weeks, because it has to be able to have the healing process involved. So those are all things that they're looking at. I guarantee you that it's something that's on the forefront of their mind.
Right.
Coach Mick is having constant dialogue with the position coaches as to where this guy is every single practice and what type of work he can get done. But it's not a concern right now, because the guys that are out are guys that have been in the system, and when they get them back, it will be a plug and play. So It's just, yes, it's something that you are concerned about, but it's not, season threatening at this point, because you're sitting at 5-0, playing at Michigan State, and then a bye week. And then hopefully at the end of that bye week, you got all the dudes back for a big time run late October and November to go win a Big Ten championship.
Love it. That is the kind of insight that you can only get from Anthony Schlegel on the difference for the podcast. That's 23 minutes on a 49-10 blowout, because we attack and dominate. It is all gas and no brakes with Schlegs. We're going to do it again next week, and we're going to be talking about Ohio State at Michigan State, first road game of the season. Can't wait to hit the road with the boys and see what happens for the Buckeyes as they hit the road in Big Ten play in East Lansing. Schlegs, appreciate you, man. Just keep running
that football, baby. Just keep running that football. Guys,
I know you love that. Hey, run the ball and play good defense. I know that works for Anthony Schlegel.
That sounds great to me, buddy. I appreciate you guys having me on. Go Bucks.
All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us on The Difference with Anthony Schlegel. See you next Sunday.